Hey, what's going on, boys and girls? Indie Pride here with Milk and Cookies Total War.
And this is 50 Bomb.
First thing I want to do when we start off this replay here, it's a 2v2 with Arevaci and Lusitani. I just kind of want to overview the Iberian tribe since patch 15 was released. And me and 50 Bomb were having a little bit of a discussion about it. And I think this is one of the really good pieces of balancing that CA's done. And look, we know that their balancing is not always good. In fact, it's quite often very atrocious.
Very interesting.
Yeah, but I think one thing that was really cool about what they did with the Iberian tribes on patch 15 was they buffed the noble swords and the Lusitani nobles and the veteran shield warriors by a lot. And we all know the Iberian tribes across the board have very low armor units. Like, most of them have like between 15 and 50, and we know that 50 is not even really a high value. But the way they compensated for that with the Iberian tribes was they increased their melee defense by a lot. Let's look at the Lusitani nobles right here. Lusitani, I'm trying to find them. Yeah, Lusitani nobles have 64 melee attack. I think they've always had ridiculously high melee attack, but 77 melee defense now. That's higher than a lot of hoplites in the game. And the cool thing about it, and what I think was a good idea from CA, was that, look, they have low armor across the board. They don't have great spears. They have pretty trash cavalry. How are we going to balance this faction? We're going to make their swords really good. And again, across the board, their swords aren't amazing, but with that defense, that really high defense value, it means that they can stand in melee combat with some of their elite swords for a very long time. And I think that you would never see the Iberian tribes in multiplayer at all if that buff hadn't happened.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the important thing is that if you are going to bring the Iberian tribes, you do have to get into combat really quick, and that is because of their low armor values. But like, yeah, as Indy said, now if you do that, then they're viable factions. They actually kill some shit and actually, stand up for themselves. But
yeah, well,
pre-patch, not so much.
Yeah, no, and no one used them pre-patch. Before patch 15, like, no one used them at all. And again, you're not going to see them too often because they are not great factions. Actually, in this battle, we're going to be playing against factions that are... It's a really bad matchup. In fact, I think Armenia, which is one of my opponents, going to be Emilianus Caesar. One of my friends is going to be on Armenia. We're going to press play on 3, 2, 1, press play. Is going to be on Armenia. And I think Arevaci and Lusitani versus Armenia or Parthia is one of the worst faction matchups, if not the worst faction matchup in the game. And the reason for that is that Parthia and Armenia have all those horse archers. They're going to be able to skirmish you down, and then cataphracts charges, even the spears you bring with the Arevaci and Lusitani can't really deal with cataphract charges at all. So it becomes really hard to win when you get whittled down by archers and then cataphracts just charge into your lines, not really caring what units are there. But again, that defense value that's been buffed on a lot of these sword units has helped a lot. Now,
yeah, it sure has.
Yeah, and now Tree is going to be on RDA, and like I said, Emilianus. I'm struggling with that.
Just say Caesar.
Caesar. I'll say Caesar. Yeah, Caesar's on Armenia, and he's brought 3 Eastern Cataphracts that are on this wing in the Royal Cataphract. He has some Noble Blood Cav and some Persian Cavalry, and then some Persian Hoplites, and maybe a couple Cartly Axemen, which we might see in a couple seconds here. He might have actually just brought Hoplites. But then Sir Tree, if you want to talk about this tactic or this strategy that Sir Tree likes to do with the RDA.
Yeah, he had talked to me about it because I'm friends with him a bit in the past, and he talked about how he likes having this nice front infantry line, and then he uses units like Therios Spears or these Illyrian Marines to literally just sit behind that front line and throw their javelins now that they have that fire at will. So as soon as I saw this army, I'm like, well, I know what he's going to be doing. So he's basically just going to get into combat with me, throw some peeler, and wreck me. So I'm going to have to... And, well, as you can see, we didn't get the hill. They started a lot closer than we did. So we had to pull back into the trees. And I'm going to try and spread out quite widely here because I'm going to need the flank to try and disrupt this formation that he's going to set up against me. And meanwhile, Indy's going to have to try and deal with Armenia, which I was not jealous of, to be fair.
No, it's not a fun matchup. So what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to send my Scutari Spearmen, which are actually really low-tier spears, only cost 500 talents. But they do have counter-cavalry tactics, which is actually a pretty big deal. I'm going to send them out to my flank, and then keep myself to Iberian cavalry, which again are just mid-tier cav, cannot deal with cataphracts at all. I'm going to keep them really close to my lines. And when the enemy team has a very clear-cut cavalry superiority, you have to do this. You have to keep your spears very close to your lines and keep your cavalry very close to your lines. So in tandem with the spears, counter cavalry tactics, and my horse, my cavalry, I should be able to maybe fend off some of these eastern cataphract charges. Now, he didn't actually bring any horse archers, so he wasn't really peppering my flank, and I think that would have done a lot of damage to me. But this is why we set up in the woods. Their range units aren't going to do a lot of damage to us, and in the woods, I feel like we can nullify the cataphract charges and nullify the skirmish advantages that our opponent might have.
Yeah, because I mean, I said to you during the game, I was pretty skeptical about taking a fight here because it meant that we had to fight uphill. But Indy was, you were pretty certain that it was the trees or nothing for us, so I went with it, and we've started the engagement along the front line here. At least I have. I'm not quite on your side yet. But I didn't know how well my swords would do. I knew they'd beat hoplites one-on-one, but there's 3 tiers that I have to get through here. Like, that's a lot of hoplites who, in this new patch, as you know, take a lot longer to kill. So I'm just going to be doing some hammer and anvil strikes in the back here, just slowly making them rout one by one.
And then over on my side, a bunch of the cataphracts came in, and I kept my spears again on the flank. And you saw right there that like 60 Scutari spearmen died on the charge when they were braced and with counter cavalry tactics on, because they have really low armor. But what it did was it absorbed the charge and let my cavalry stay alive. And then once the charge is gone, my Iberian cavalry can do a little bit better in a melee fight. So yeah, I lost a lot of guys there, but look at his eastern cataphracts. If they charge in the counter cavalry, they got 60 kills off the charge, but now they're at half strength. Like, they lost a lot of guys on the charge. They're starting to get beat up by my cavalry in melee, and I don't know, I think it was really ballsy for him to, with those spears right next to my cavalry, to just charge right in. And I know what he was thinking. He's like, this is an easy matchup. Cataphracts rape the Iberians, and they do. But if you have a meat shield unit like that Scutari Spearman to block that charge, and then use the counter cavalry tactics to do some killing and get their HP down, it makes it harder. And I have 5 slingers, so now that I have them tied down, I can start shooting the cavalry a lot. And this works really well, as you guys know, on this patch. You tie down enemy cavalry and then focus fire them with your slingers, and they start losing guys real quick.
Real quick, yeah. My slingers, on the other hand, are probably not doing that much. I mean, yeah, firing at hoplites with slings not really going to do a whole lot.
And you're in the woods.
Yeah, that too. But I am slowly chipping away at this immense hoplite horde on my side here. Mainly on the left flank is where all my progress is, because I've got hammer and anvils coming in, just cycling them in and out with my Scutari Cav, and then slowly advancing up with my swords. But I believe I'm about to help you possibly in the Cav fight.
Yes, I believe you're going to send some of these Scutari Spearmen over, and with these guys low HP, this is going to be really big for us. And you saw, like, I focused fire on the Eastern Cataphracts with the Slingers, and they routed. And now these Royal Cataphracts are caught up in melee. They haven't lost a lot of guys. He's going to try to pull out, and I think he's actually going to succeed. But when he does that, he loses guys, and they lose a lot of HP because their defense drops to, maybe not 0 on this patch, but it drops significantly. And then he's going to miss micro and kind of get caught with the Scutari Spearmen. And if you activate counter cavalry, which you might not, it doesn't really matter. You have the 20 bonus versus large, so they're gonna have a fun time. Yep, they're shredding them in melee combat.
Yeah, there it goes.
Yeah,
I did pop it. I knew I did.
Yeah, so now the Royal Cataphracts drop really quickly, and this cavalry engagement went really poorly for him.
I feel like he was too focused on that one area. He could have spread them out, moved them around, but you know, our strength was in that small, keeping everything in a small area where we could tie them down and kill them. But I feel like if he had spread out way more and stretched us really thin, then his cavalry would have done so much more to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't actually have anything more to say.
That's okay. I had a Scutari that came out here, and I kind of let them get a little bit isolated, and that's going to allow him to charge in with the Persian cavalry, which I actually haven't seen too many people use in multiplayer. A very cheap shot cav unit, and it can honestly be very cost effective. But this Scutari is going to be sad because they're getting skirmished from multiple directions, and the Persian cavalry with these axes are going to get into melee combat and make them have a sad day. But I wrapped up the Persian hoplites, which again was not going to be a hard fight, and now I've started to roll up on RDA's flank and get my noble fighters, who haven't lost a man and have 140 kills. And now they're going to get into melee on the flank. And these what are these the okay, these are the Thurio spears. Yeah, like that's gonna be a super easy fight. Like even on this patch, the hoplites do not stand up to elite Iberian swords.
No.
They have really high attack, really high defense. They're gonna shred you real bad. And that was a really good thing, because during the patch 15 beta, the hoplites were probably a little bit too strong, and swords kind of went by the wayside. But CA noticed that and was like, hey, let's change this a little bit. Let's give swords their killing power again, and make the hoplites a little bit weaker because they were maybe too strong.
Yeah, and I feel like your assistance that came in at this point was absolutely essential, because as you can see, my infantry line doesn't really exist anymore. I've got one unit of veteran shield warriors wavering, one unit, well, one of my noble fighters is routed. My gen's still going, but yeah, most of my center has collapsed just because they've fought so many blimmin' hoplites, so this was definitely much needed. But soon enough, army losses are going to start playing on the RDA morale here, so yeah, we got that going for us.
Yeah, like there's a bunch of skirmishers still left for the Armenians, but they didn't have an opportunity to do much. I mean, they have decent kills, I guess, but because we were in the woods this whole time, it really made it very hard for him to actually skirmish effectively. And the way we set up, yeah, it was kind of like camp in the woods, but they got the hill right at the start, and we had to back up into these trees. It was the only way we were going to beat them. And fighting Armenia, again, like I said, on the open plain, horrible idea against cataphracts. Horrible idea. So it was really good that we pulled back, because it was probably the only way we were going to not get absolutely shredded.
I agree. In hindsight, I was very glad that you were so sure about yourself. Because I would have just kept kiting. I would just be like, run forever.
Yeah, the problem is you can't kite someone who has more cav than you. So you would have just run into me, and I would have been real sad. Yeah. But so yeah, my Scutari and a bunch of my noble fighters going to get into melee with these Illyrian Marines, and the mass rout has started now.
Yeah.
And we managed to pull it out.
Yeah, it was a pretty epic battle actually, and I like to see the Iberian tribes in action. I think they're pretty cool.
They're really fun to bring.
They are. Oh yes, look at them kills.
Yeah,
Get on my level.
Oh my god, 2,200. Sorcery brought 3,000 men to the battle.
That is ridiculous.
It really is. Now, RDA again obviously got a huge buff on this patch because hoplites are quite good.
Actually good now, yeah.
Yeah. These the Illyrian noble hoplites, very strong unit. A lot like the Spartan Royal Spartans. Honestly, a lot like that. Maybe not quite as good, but they will stay in melee combat for absolutely forever. And I think they have the highest armor of any.
Yeah, I think they have 115.
Yeah.
I think.
It's pretty insane. So they don't really die, but one faction that I think actually does counter RDA pretty well in this patch are the Sword Rush factions. Especially, not like Arverni. I think Arverni and Iceni have actually been pretty hurt on this patch, because their swords didn't quite get the same kind of buff, the same kind of love that the Iberian tribes did. But
yeah.
Yes, definitely the Iberian tribes I think match up pretty well with this, because they just have the cutting power with the veteran shield warriors, which again a very cost effective sword unit, and they also got the same kind of buff. They got very high melee defense as well. Like they can cut through all those hoplites where a lot of factions couldn't.
Yeah, I agree that the Illyrian noble hoplites were going up against my Lusitani nobles, and as you can see there, I got 340 kills on my general, so that's nice to see, because although, you know, obviously high tier hoplites should be doing very well, they definitely shouldn't be beating high tier swords, so it's good to see. It's balance of some sort, so makes me happy.
And it's just nice to be able to bring these kind of factions occasionally and actually be able to win.
It is indeed.
So yeah, I mean, it was honestly a really fun battle. I want to again thank you Caesar and Surgery of Arbor for joining us in that battle, and we'll be bringing you a couple more replays soon. So I hope you guys enjoyed.
Yeah.